Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Rosslyn Hill Chapel, a spiritual home for open minds. My name is Reverend Kate Dean, and I am proud to serve as the minister for this beautiful and sacred place. Whoever you are, and wherever you are on life's journey, there is a place for you within our Unitarian spiritual community. Today, we consider the theme of summer rest. This is our theme for this month, and how we can find more rest in our lives. Our separate children's chapel activities are taking a rest themselves over the summer, and they will return in September. If you're watching at home, you can join the virtual side aisle at midday. The Zoom link was sent out in our weekly email, or you can find it in the link in the YouTube description. And for those of you in the chapel, please do join us in the real side aisle for refreshments after the service. At 6 p.m. today, we have our regular 30 minutes of mindfulness, and then at 7, our evening gathering is the monthly Soul Fuel gathering of acoustic music, poetry, and storytelling. This month features singer-songwriter Joey Clarkson and sacred flute player Paul Hussey. You can find information about these and all of our other activities on our website. If you prefer a paper copy, then copies of our Open Mind newsletter are available at the back on the steward's table. For our collection today, we have returned to the practice of passing our collection basket, and we will do this during the offertory music. For some of us, this will be a symbolic act, especially if we intend to give our offering by card. And the card reader will be available after the service near the piano. We also have new gift aid envelopes, so if you are eligible to make your contribution through gift aid, we really appreciate it if you could complete one of those envelopes. This is the first Sunday of August, and so I'd like to tell you about this month's good cause, which is Cruise Bereavement Support. This is the UK's largest bereavement charity, providing free care and bereavement counselling to people facing grief. They help people through one of the most painful times of life with their bereavement support services, information, and campaigning. And their helpline can be called during working hours and some of the weekend, while Cruise Chat offers online chat with expert bereavement counsellors, and there are opportunities for sharing experience via social media. The charity also works in schools and in the workplace, in partnership and collaboration, and to deliver training. And so our collection will be divided between the upkeep of this beautiful chapel and this very worthy cause, which we have chosen this month, linking in with our Death Cafe event, which is a monthly event that we hold and will be returning at the end of September. And now I'm going to light our chalice, the symbol of our liberal religious faith. May this flame remind us of the glorious summer sun and remind us that true peace can be found when we are well rested. May its light spark joy in our hearts. Now, we are a spiritual community and we like to get to know one another. So now I'd ask you to turn to someone near you, to say your name and welcome them to chapel this morning. little musical burst to remind us to gather together once again. I always love this sound of the bubbling conversations, and I do hope you'll continue them over refreshments in the side aisle after the service. But for now, let's sing our first hymn. It's in our green hymn book, hymn number 176, Come Together in Love. And as is our custom, please wait for the introduction and then rise or stand as you're able to sing with me hymn number 176. Now, I have a story for all ages to share with you, and this is a tale from the Middle East, slightly adapted from the book Doorways to the Soul, which is edited by Alyssa Davy Pearman. Now, this story is about Mullah Nasruddin, the holy fool that you may have come across before. And one day, Mullah Nasruddin was working in his garden when he became very warm. It was a hot summer's day. And he sat down under the shade of a walnut tree. And making sure no one was about, he slipped off his turban to cool his bald head. As he relaxed, he meditated upon the beauty of nature and the wisdom of Allah. Observing a pumpkin in the garden, he smiled to himself. Allah, your ways are great indeed. But there are a few things I would have done differently were I in charge, he thought. See that pumpkin growing on a spindly little vine, and then consider the walnuts, tiny walnuts, such an inconsequential nut upon this great and lordly tree. Well, if I were planning things, I would have reversed it. I'd have hung those pumpkins up in their glory on the magnificent tree and let those tiny walnuts just cling onto the spindly pumpkin vine near the ground. So musing, he closed his eyes to dream of other things he might do differently. A gentle breeze stirred the branches above him, and suddenly a walnut fell, thud, on top of his bald head. As the pain spread, He rubbed the lump that had begun to swell on his scalp, and then an understanding smile spread across his face, and he bowed towards Mecca. "O Allah," he murmured, "forgive me. Thy wisdom is great indeed. Supposed I had been arranging matters. I should just now have been hit upon the head by a pumpkin. Ah, Allah, indeed thy wisdom is great." And so that's our story for all ages today. I now invite you into a time of prayer and meditation. We come together in fellowship each Sunday with hearts full of joy and full of concern. Concerns about ourselves and our loved ones, and for those whom we don't know, suffering in their own lives. Yet we also have much to be joyful and grateful for. If you are holding someone in your heart this morning, I invite you to say their name aloud in the coming moments of stillness, so that we may also hold them in our prayers. Spirit of life and love, God of our hearts, we give thanks for those who bring us joy, and we pray for the safekeeping of all those whom we hold in concern. For all those names, those spoken and unspoken, may they be surrounded by the loving kindness that we offer them today. Blessed be, and amen. And now the collection will be taken and divided between the upkeep of this beautiful chapel and this month's good cause, Cruise Bereavement Support. Thank you for the many ways that you contribute to our spiritual community through your time, your talent, and your treasure. In a moment, I'm going to ask chapel member Shirley King to give our reading, but I'll just switch on her microphone first.
In this poem, Fern Hill, by Dylan Thomas, he describes the joy and the innocence of living in the moment when he was a child. He grew up in Swansea, which at that time was a busy industrial port. But he spent all his childhood holidays, it was an escape in rural Wales. He had a relative living on a farm near Llansteffan in West Wales, beautiful part of Wales. And he describes much of that in this poem. The name of the farm was Fern Hill. Now as I was young and easy under the apple boughs about the lilting house, and happy as the grass was green, the night above the dingle starry, time let me hail and climb golden in the heydays of his eyes. And honoured among wagons, I was prince of the apple towns. And once below a time, I lordly had the trees and leaves trail with daisies and barley down the rivers of the windfall light. And as I was green and carefree, famous among the barns about the happy yard, and singing as the farm was home, in the sun that is young once only, time let me play and be golden in the mercy of his means. And green and golden, I was huntsman and herdsman. The calves sang to my horn, the foxes on the hills barked clear and cold, and the Sabbath rang slowly in the pebbles of the holy streams. All the sun long it was running, it was lovely, the hay fields high as the house, the tunes from the chimneys, it was air and playing, lovely and watery, and fire green as grass. And nightly under the simple stars, as I rode to sleep, the owls were bearing the farm away. All the moon long I heard, blessed among stables, the night jars flying with the ricks and the horses flashing into the dark. And then to awake, and the farm like a wanderer white with the dew come back, the cock on his shoulder. It was all shining, it was Adam and maiden. The sky gathered again, and the sun grew round that very day. So it must have been after the birth of the simple light in the first spinning place, the spellbound horses walking warm out of the whinnying green stables onto the fields of praise. And honoured among foxes and pheasants by the gay house under the new-made clouds, and happy as the heart was long, in the sun borne over and over, I ran my heedless ways. My wishes raced through the house-high hay, and nothing I cared at my sky-blue trades, that time allows in all his tuneful tuning, so few and such morning songs before the children, green and golden, follow him out of grace. Nothing I cared in the lamb-white days, that time would take me up to the swallow-thronged loft by the shadow of my hand, in the moon that is always rising, nor that riding to sleep I should hear him fly with the high fields, and wake to the farm, forever fled from the childless land. Oh, as I was young and easy in the mercy of his means, time held me, green and dying, though I sang in my chains like the sea.
Thank you so much, Shirley. It is our time to sing once again. This time it's hymn number 76, a tune I think we will certainly recognize, Immortal, Invisible, hymn number 76. Please be seated. Our time of prayer and meditation now begins with a poem read by Shirley, and it will be followed by a time of stillness for you to pray or to meditate in your own way.
Time to stand and stare. No time to stand beneath the boughs and stare as long as sheep and cows. No time to see when woods we pass, where squirrels hide their nuts in grass. No time to see in broad daylight streams full of stars, like skies at night. No time to turn at beauty's glance and watch her feet, how they can dance. No time to wait till her mouth can enrich that smile her eyes began. A poor life this, if full of care, We have no time to stand and stare.
Fern Hill is a wonderful poem, isn't it, by Dylan Thomas, and it was written to be read, which Shirley did so beautifully earlier. Evolving from memories of childhood to a meditation on time slipping away. It paints such an idyllic picture of summers spent in the countryside when Dylan Thomas was a boy, and the magical landscape where, in the first spinning place, the spellbound horses walking warm out of the whinnying green stable on to fields of praise. And towards the end, we see the poet musing on his place later in life, reflecting on how his youthful self was not ready to acknowledge the passage of time. Oh, as I was young and easy in the mercy of his means, time held me green and dying, though I sang in my chains like the sea. Memories from our childhood can be strong and suddenly appear from or reappear from nowhere. Not all of them will be happy, of course, but for Thomas, it provided true inspiration. And we can imagine how, growing up in the industrial town of Swansea, what a relief it must have been to escape to his aunt's ramshackle home, the farm in West Wales. These experiences instilled in him a lifelong love of the natural world. And for me, the imagery of the countryside summons up a dreamlike mood of lazy summer days. And there is a suggestion that he had found his own Eden. Perhaps you have had that feeling of fragments of memory floating towards the surface when your mind wanders. From my own childhood, a scene reappeared recently. I remember taking a flight to the Caribbean when I was around 7, in fact, exactly 7 years old. It was the first time I'd been on an aeroplane while I was old enough to understand what was going on, and it was also my birthday, my 7th birthday. My mum had managed to keep this trip a surprise up until the last minute, although an uncle almost let it slip. Once aboard, somehow the cabin crew had got wind of the fact it was my birthday, and they made a bit of a fuss of me. It was announced on the PA system, and all of those around me, it seemed like the whole aeroplane sang happy birthday. Then the lady sitting next to me gave me a $5 bill, and the crew presented me with a card hastily created using a business class menu. I was very impressed, and impressed that we were flying economy class. I was too young to understand quite what that meant, and obviously the memory has stayed with me. A few weeks ago in our global cafe service, I invited everyone, in fact, last week in our cafe service, I invited everyone to think about a holiday memory and to compose a postcard to send to a friend about it. There were some lovely insights into the memories of our fellow Unitarians, of a holiday which was really relaxing, so much so that the writer forgot the world for a bit. We swam in our pool by moonshine, wrote another. Memorable experience of love and beauty. Lovely times in Denmark, what's not to like? Rome, I never tire of it. After living abroad for a year, I feel the most special place is where the people I love are. I had some time with myself and with the ocean. I felt its warmth and its strength. And a picnic in the woods, nowhere special, just the people, not the place. Slowing down during the summer season gives us an opportunity to stop and stare, to step out of the busyness of every day. We would be wise to make the most of it when we have the opportunity, but it's not always easy to give ourselves the permission to find true rest. The rush of life can feel overwhelming, yet it can also mask a spiritual or emotional emptiness. If we gave ourselves the time to stop and to stare, we might have to face some uncomfortable truths. Yet we may also give ourselves the time to find some answers to those parts of ourselves which have been yearning for something deeper. A rest to make space for the greater things in life to grow, develop, and be reclaimed. And yet, in this holiday season, there is a risk that getting away from it all doesn't quite go to plan. And it can be stressful, as stressful as staying at home. Why is this? The philosopher Alain de Botton counsels us not to expect everything to change and to be perfect on holiday. He suggests that we often pack our life's troubles in the suitcase along with the flip-flops and the suntan lotion. And that the added stress of being somewhere which is strange, a new place, can mean that the holiday does not go as well as we had hoped, especially if we have those high expectations of it. This excess baggage of feelings and emotions can spoil the experience unless we accept that this is the nature of our human existence, and we should not expect to escape completely from ourselves. Well, I have been trying to practice what I preach this week, giving myself some time to rest and to stop and stare. A decadent daytime trip to the cinema, wandering around the redeveloped parts of Camden, pruning in the Manse Garden. And I can tell you that it does wonders for rebalancing your life. Perhaps you found this too. If you've had a chance to slow down, you may find that rebalancing sense. In scientific terms, it might be described as non-directed thinking. And it can be very fruitful, just letting your mind wander where it will. Last week, pagans celebrated the Celtic festival of Lammas, marking the first grain harvest. It is a time to take stock, to look back on projects and plans that have been started over the previous year, and taste those first fruits, the first fruits of the harvest that is yet to come. Some of us may not wish to go away during the summer months, or may not have the means or the inclination. But for others, this could be the annual trip to a special holiday destination. And I think that something can happen when we go away, even for a couple of days. The act of simply sleeping in a different bed can shed light on our lives in a new way, giving us a new perspective. When we stop to find rest, we have the time to give thanks for the harvest of good things in our lives. In our story for all ages earlier, the holy fool Nasruddin takes some time to rest and contemplate under a tree. He lets his mind wander, thinking about what he might change about the world. In his case, a nut dropping on his head helps him to realize that there are some things that we can change and some we can't. Yet true wisdom is knowing the difference between the two. I wonder what it is like for you. Do you find holidays or trips away energizing or restful? What are the ways that you can bring spiritual rest into your daily surroundings? Let's have a few moments of stillness to reflect on those questions. You may want to close your eyes, beginning with a few calm, deep breaths. Reflecting on finding rest in our lives, at home or away. Perhaps we can take some wisdom from our own experiences to guide us on our path. And if these few moments have not revealed a truth for you this time, maybe something will come up, rising up to the surface later on in the week, in a quiet moment when you're least expecting it. A poor life, this, if full of care, we have no time to stand and stare. Blessed be. Let us now stand and sing our final hymn. It's hymn number 268, Moods of Summer, and we will be singing verses 1, 4 and 5. Moods of Summer, hymn 268. Blessed is the sky, and all that is warm and filled with light. Blessed is the air, and all that is open and free. Blessed is the earth, and all that is steady and firm. Blessed is the sea, and all that is hidden and deep. Words by Eric Williams. And in our appreciation of the world around us, may we become a blessing to each other. May it be so. Amen. Please be seated. Thank you so much to our guest musician, Michael Veazey, to Shirley King for the wonderful readings, and to everyone who contributes to making our Sunday so special. As I mentioned, our card reader will be near the piano shortly, but please also do join us for refreshments in the side aisle. Thank you, everyone.